Warning: the following podcast contains irreverent humor, exceptionally nerdy opinions, potential cursing, and plenty of love for the prequels. If any of the preceding offends you, please turn off this podcast immediately, and may the Force be with you.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate, featuring your hosts, JT. I mean, they killed his mother. What's he supposed to do? Send him a postcard? I wish you wouldn't have done that. AJ.
I love a good three-way.
Oh, my goodness. Steve.
It's our goal to be played over the loudspeakers in the bathrooms during celebration.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we discuss Lucasfilm's current storytelling style and its place alongside the original trilogy, and recap our misadventures on Rogue Friday.
This is the Nerf Herder Council.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Nerf Herder Council. A very special night tonight. This is officially our 21st episode.
We can drink now.
I just thought it'd be kind of funny to say, introduce every episode with the number, since we had that, it's our 20th the last time. So just kind of being facetious there. But
it is a bit of a milestone. I think this is the first time we've ever had a 21st episode.
Very true.
Imagine that.
And it'll be the last time we have one.
And unlike WrestleMania hype, this is officially the 20th anniversary of our first show.
Oh yeah,
they jumped the shark with WrestleMania 25. Like, it's the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. Like, no, dude, it's the 24th because the first one was just a thing.
I can never remember that. Like, is it 20 years or is it 21? Like, when you have to count, like if you go 1986 to 2016, you're like, oh, it's been 30 years. Like, no, technically it's 31. Like, what? Huh? So, anyways.
And then you start counting on your fingers, and then you get confused because you can't get past 10.
Yeah.
We haven't been this goofy at the beginning of a show in a while, but
last time I tried to count past 20 that way, I got arrested, so.
Nice. Well, anyway, welcome back to another episode.
Well,
I'm JT.
You can count the amount of shows we have.
Right?
You want me to count that right now?
Oh, boy.
Hold on, let me get on Facebook Live.
Yeah. Speaking of Facebook Live, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't start the show with reviewing the Rogue Friday cluster.
Can we just be remiss then?
Yeah, that didn't. We know that Spreaker Live works.
That Friday went rogue.
Yeah,
the audio went rogue.
The audio, the Facebook Live post, the Spreaker.
You could definitely tell that we were rookies, man.
No, not we. I was perfectly fine and being a damn great host from my bed while I was falling asleep.
I was not.
Dude, Steve, you aced your Thursday night like a pro.
Yep.
You could tell you'd done that before.
Yes, I have.
Not me. I'm sitting there complaining about, where's the chat? And we had to use, the comment section? And then someone said, I think that is the chat.
Yeah.
That is the worst chat ever. That's not a chat. That's a comment section.
You got further than I did. I couldn't even get to the chat/comment section to come up so I could say anything.
So
one
anyways,
smart-ass comment was all I was going to do before bed, and 25 minutes later trying to get the damn feed to pop up, and I got nothing. I stayed up longer than I wanted to just trying to F around with it.
I finally got in there, and oh my God, it was just like, again, I finally just commented on something thinking, all right, this is close enough to a chat. And then someone says, oh, that is the chat. I'm like, oh boy. But anyways, for those of you who don't know, because we're not going to be able to release the audio, because thanks to the weather, it really didn't turn out worth a damn. AJ went to the Toys R Us up the street from us for Force Friday. Did they call it Rogue Friday or
Rogue Friday?
Rogue Friday, okay. But AJ went up there to look for some Lego exclusives, and he was in line with our buddy Jeff, who we had on the show previously. We also had Steve's brother John with him. So why don't you explain, give the story of what happened, since the audio will be lost in the ether along with our episode 1 commentary.
Yeah, this is the silver lining to having all the problems, is that we instantly had material for tonight. All I have to do is retell everything that I did that night that was supposed to already be released.
Do we need all the wind and rain noise to make it?
Can we get some Foley work on that?
Right.
Well,
yeah, okay, so let's...
One thing I think I know is you mentioned 3 people between AJ, my brother, and Jeff, so I had to have been, 80% of the people in line?
Yeah, we actually...
actually close.
That's actually right where the audio picked up, actually. So I'll set the stage for you. Picture it. Sicily, 1928.
Nice.
No one's going to get that reference.
No, but it's still funny to me.
All right. So... For those of you who may have thought that we were liars, I was actually live on Facebook at 11:38 p.m. from the Parma Toys R Us. All right, specifically 11:38 because if you know your Star Wars, I don't need to explain that either.
My notification came through at 11:44, though. I was going to tell you were late.
Now
now you ruined it, dude.
Never mind. Skip the story.
All right. So next topic.
Moving on.
Yeah. So. Just like last year, it was raining, which is awesome because, rain is so warm this time of year in Cleveland, Ohio. So we get there and it's downpouring and there is no awning at Toys R Us. So we're just standing out there like fools in the parking lot trying to not look weird. But it's a bunch of out-of-shape sci-fi nerds who are just standing around waiting to buy toys at midnight. So we all know it's kind of embarrassing to begin with. So I get there,
so
and
all you can do is hang your hat on the fact that you have a girlfriend to go home to, unlike most of the other guys that were there.
Right.
Right.
Although the mere act of going out and doing that broadcast almost cost me said girlfriend, so that's a whole different angle. But yeah, so it's raining, it's windy, and at least like with Force Friday last year, and Steve, you remember this because you were there. There were people in line.
Yes, there wasn't much. There was a few diehards. The line kept getting... It got longer, and then it got shorter when the rain came, and then it would stop for like 5 minutes, and then more people would shuffle in, and it was weird. But yeah, there was at least a handful of people there. It's a smattering of people.
Nice term, a smattering.
A gaggle, perhaps. Not a throng.
Definitely not a myriad.
So this pack of people that were there last year apparently aren't interested in Rogue One as much because by having myself and Steve, your brother John, and Jeff show up, we actually doubled the crowd. So
there was only 3 other people besides you guys?
So 3 became 6 once we arrived, yes.
You
Wow.
mean the weirdo from last year that had the director's chair that was trying to like let people interview him from the front door was not there this year?
No, unfortunately, because actually this year we were there to interview people.
This guy
me?
was pretty much the comic book dude from The Simpsons. Like,
Worst toy ever.
I just remember standing there watching YouTube videos. I'm like, why is this guy just trying to talk to everybody like about like his 1982 Pepsi effing Han Solo cardboard cutout thing that like what the hell, dude?
He's probably got his own solo podcast. He just sits there and talks and expects everybody to listen.
And then it rained and it flooded my basement and it ruined my 3 3/4 inch action figures.
Holds the personal record for most fruit by a foot eaten in a day.
He's a mix between the comic book guy and The Simpsons and that dude that was playing Warcraft with the kids from South Park. Needless to say, if that guy's there at Force Friday next year and it's not raining, we'll talk to him.
I got to say, this is the most descriptive episode we may have ever had. People can really picture what we're talking about.
Oh, it's great.
Between the English lesson and the the storyboarding we're doing here.
Right. So,
when
so
we
you
go
doubled.
get,
So
when
you
we go
doubled
get Gwen, she can start drawing storyboards for us to post on Facebook later.
Right. That's okay. So you guys doubled the crowd.
Yes. So now that we were 6 strong, 6 deep, as it were, I actually used my phone and fired up Facebook Live with the Spreaker app recording in the background. And I had done a quick test before to make sure that I could actually do a Facebook Live video and have Spreaker recording at the same time. So I did test this beforehand. The problem is I did not check the Facebook video after I did my test to see what it came out like. I saw that I was live on Facebook, and I saw that Spreaker was still detecting microphone levels and recording, and I played back the Spreaker audio, and it showed up fine. So I was like, cool, this is great. We can do a video feed live, and we'll record the audio for posterity and post it up later. Sweet. This is cool.
Hashtag greatest podcast ever.
Right? All from my phone. Although, on a quick side note, I do think we need to do a little bit of a Patreon campaign to get me a selfie stick. Then we can really do some Facebook Live with quality.
Oh boy.
They're
I have a broomstick and some duct tape over there. We'll get you all hooked up by the end of the show.
Right. Selfie stick.
Can someone just toss me a $5? I'll go get it at $5 Below right now. We'll be
Better
done.
yet, let's get a nice lightsaber and have Steve make a little clip for the phone at the end.
I can
so
do
just
that.
have a lightsaber selfie stick. That would be like the bomb. I would
would
pay
be-
for that.
That
Then
would
it wouldn't be.
perfect.
Then it wouldn't look so terrible to have a selfie stick.
AJ, if you're going to 5 Below, make sure you get the Spreaker and the Facebook Live
Yeah.
working.
Wait a minute. If we did a lightsaber selfie stick, wouldn't that mean that every video would look like we're trying to stab the audience in the face?
Probably. It would look pretty menacing.
So be it.
Oh well. So
Okay, so we're trying to do a show. I have, turned on the recording feed and I've got audio rolling. Now I'm getting rained on. I've got an umbrella, but it's not doing too much, and it's noisy. Turns out it's very noisy, and it's
really
windy.
noisy.
You don't realize how much microphones pick up wind until you're outdoors. Anyone who's ever tried to hold a phone call on a Bluetooth headset knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
You can have a 2-mile-an-hour wind, and it sounds like you're in the middle of a hurricane to the person on the other end of that line. So I'm just doing my thing. I'm trying to do some sort of a show here. So I actually I do my little hellos and introductions with the few people that are in line ahead of going live. And I tell them, hey, I'm from this podcast. We're going to be doing a live broadcast of the Rogue Friday stuff so people can see what's going on in the store. If you want to talk to us, that's cool. We'll do a quick little Q&A interview kind of thing. If you don't, just, stay off to the side, stand clear, let us do our thing. So I talk to this dude, and he's all cool. So I go on, and I do the quick little intro, like, hey, this is Nerf Herder Council, live from outside of the Parma Toys R Us. And you'd swear it was like Times Square on New Year's Eve or something, because all of a sudden, every other person there, all 5 of them, all decided they had something to contribute at that very time. And most of it was
Right.
just dumb noises. Yeah, exactly. I'm on Facebook, man. Hey, Mom, check me out. So, damn. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So, I do my little intro, and I go over to the guy. I introduce Jeff, and I introduce John, and strangely, John only has 2 modes of microphone, by the way. He's got right up on it, or, hey, my name is John. Well, yeah, whatever.
Hi, my name is John. I'm trying not to say a racial slur right now.
Yeah, right.
So,
Hey, honestly, that's pretty tough for me to do too. So.
well, and to John's credit, he did say the same exact thing and did not use a racial slur. So,
Very good. He deserves a Battlefront poster for
right?
that.
Yeah.
Those Battlefront posters rear their ugly heads.
Well, they're going to until I get rid of the damn thing.
Well, Battlefront 2 is coming out early next year, so we need to ship those before the sequel releases.
No, after
No,
that,
no,
they'll
no.
be a collector's item.
I have a Sharpie.
I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Roman numeral 2 on all of them. Pump it right back out, man.
Perfect. Love it.
That'd be great.
Okay.
So
So
anyway,
Unless we're giving them away in Spanish, and I'll write dos on them.
El Battlefront Dose.
oh my god. So anyway,
so I get through the introductions, explain what's going on, flash the Facebook video around so I can show that we actually are at Toys R Us and we actually are getting rained on, and try to get 3 people crammed into a shot when I've only got the length of my arm to make it fit in the frame, and that didn't really work.
Well, on the plus side, you didn't have that many people to try to get into the shot.
True. So I go and I start talking to the guy that we had met. Turns out his name is Tyler, and it was really fortuitous because he's a member of the Mandalorian Mercs and has friends in the 501st. And we've been talking about getting connections there so we can get an interview with one of those guys. So it was perfect for that.
well, that's good.
But you know that guy in the director's chair last year that you were talking about?
Right.
Well, he's probably listening to this, so we're going to keep it brief. But Tyler was extremely knowledgeable and very open to talking. He was a great interview in that respect. 15 minutes later, I got my microphone back. Basically, like, he should be doing the show for us because he knows so much more about what was going on there.
And this podcast is mine.
My whole plan that night, I texted you guys this, was I'm just going to go there with my phone, talk to whoever's there, and show off the stuff because I don't know what all's going to happen. So let's just try it and see what happens. He knew the case assortments, how many were exclusive figures, when the next wave was coming out, what other stores you could go to, already had figures shipped to him from out of state because some stores put them out early by mistake. He had the whole rundown ready to go. So
And AJ just looks at him like, nerd.
like, dude, if you can listen to the audio and outside of the wind and the rain noise, if you can actually hear any dialogue, it's him going for like 5 minutes uninterrupted, and the only thing I have to say is, "Yeah, that's cool." Okay,
I did hear that part, and the one good thing to me was if the audio was usable, I was thinking, well, this guy is at least very knowledgeable, so it's not like you've got some dummy that's like, I want to get a stormtrooper. Just there to,
I want the new BB-8.
Yeah, right. So he knew what he was talking about, and it was cool. But yeah, he was.
So for one moment, AJ felt like what I do when you two start going off sometimes over here.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
what do you think, Steve?
See, that's a better interview than because I used to run a music magazine, and you'd interview bands, and you'd literally get these yes and no answers. Like, dude, what is that? Like, so on the new record, did you use this kind of amp or something? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And better to have more content than less content. So,
Right.
So he was a great interview in that respect.
Strings, guitar pick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I had meant to just like do a quick run through the line, just show that other people are there, give them a little time on the video and a chance to get on the show for a minute, and then actually do more of like a conversation based show, like our normal format with the 2 guys that I invited up there to hang out with me. And it just didn't happen that way at all because between the wind and the rain and umbrella problems, and then Tyler like inadvertently hijacking the show by trying to upclass it with knowledge.
It's always
Out of here. This isn't Rebel Force.
it's always amazing to me how people think it's like the coolest thing ever. And again, maybe it's just me being in a band for all these years. Like you get some, like to me backstage, like I haven't done anything national, but playing the Odeon or doing some bigger venues. Like you go backstage, it's a room, and there might be a cooler in there with some stuff for you and some towels. You're like, sweet. But man, you bring somebody that's not in a band backstage, and they just think it's like heaven. Like they've gone into a different world, and
It
it's the same
smells
thing with
like piss, but it's band piss.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. And it seems like having a podcast is like that too. They're like, oh my god, I've had a bunch of people with me. You have your own show. And I'm like, yeah, it's like 3 mics hooked into a computer in my buddy's basement. Like, but everybody thinks it's so awesome because you're out there, and it's not nearly as glamorous as you would think.
We've gone over it a few times. Our setup is probably pretty clutch compared to a lot of podcasts that do way better than we do. So.
That is true. That is true.
We did it all backwards. We got the good gear and none of the content, and the other people started by being know-it-alls and entertaining, and then got the
Right.
good gear later.
Right.
Who needs entertaining when you got these boom mic stands?
Yeah. Okay, so what happened? Now you're out in the rain. Tyler talks for 5 minutes. The wind and everything's going around. So you finally get in the store. What happens?
Okay, so first off, like I said, I didn't actually get to any of the conversation stuff because I knew I had 20 minutes to fill before the doors were going to open anyway. And I meant to like get some conversations going to pass the time. Turns out I didn't need them because Tyler had so much to say, which was cool, that the doors were opening and I had to kind of like cut him off and be like, oh, wait, hold on. We're going inside now. So
Well, we got to go before the one thing gets off the shelf.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. So, okay. So I'll give you the quick rundown of what was actually there. The exclusives this year were, and this was cool because these were just comped. You didn't have to like buy anything to get them. Just by showing up and walking in, they had people ready to hand you stuff. You got a poster that looks like I want to say it was very early promotional art in some way because it had a picture of K2SO, Cassian Andor, and I think Jyn Erso running like towards the viewer with an X-wing in the background. It says "Join the Rebellion," so it's like a propaganda poster. But K2SO looks like K2SO. Cassian Andor looks like the actor. Jyn Erso is the most generic white chick I have ever seen. Like the hair is barely even close to being the right style, and the face is nothing like. I'm blanking on the actress's name.
Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones, thank you. So this might have been early promotional art, or the artist just didn't care. Or maybe the artist was Asian because all white people look the same. So they hand you the poster, which is cool. Unfortunately, they handed you at the beginning, so you've already got crap in your hands when you're trying to run to the Star Wars section and get everything first. And you also got a T-shirt, which that's a pretty high-end promo item. So I thought that was really
that's not
cool.
bad. Is that the one you gave me?
Yeah, it's a Pop Vinyl T-shirt. I didn't know Pop Vinyl made anything besides Pop Vinyls, but it was cool to have the artwork on there. And did you notice that did you remember the characters that were on there?
No, because I was too busy focusing on the fact that the collar was all sorts of bunched, so it was actually an incredibly low-grade T-shirt. Oh. So when you're like, that's a high-end item, I'm like, yeah, usually.
We got a Lego brick and a Nerf poster last year. So
Yeah, the sizing was really
One
weird
brick?
on the T-shirt.
one
Yes.
Lego brick
Yes, one Lego brick.
What the hell good is that?
with a first order trooper on it.
Oh, so there's a minifig on it. Okay.
Yeah, it was. They did this. It's like what they
just,
did.
Just a picture of one.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
it's like what
never
they,
mind. Now it's back to sucking.
One at a time, please. This is a podcast. Thank you. So, hey, there it is. Okay, so yeah, the promo item last year was the Lego Star Wars. It's just what is that? 6 studs wide by like I don't know, a couple rows tall kind of plate with a print of a First Order Stormtrooper.
6x4 or something.
Yeah. So I mean, that's one of those things where it's cool to have it to say you've got it, but I have no idea. It has no functional use. It's not like you're ever going to build anything with that.
No.
Like, you know what I need here? I need a big brick with a picture of a First Order Stormtrooper and a Lego logo on it.
Ridiculous.
So yes, completely worthless.
So you got a poster and a shirt.
So the shirt, yeah, and the shirt was cool though because it had the main Rogue One cast,
Yeah.
done in pop vinyl style, and even the title was done in Aurebesh. Mm-hmm. So that was a nice touch. But I'm sorry, the shirt wasn't high quality. You get what you pay for, apparently.
Yeah, right?
I thought I was going to keep it for myself because it said athletic fit and large. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, it's probably going to be a little bit cheaper, so it's going to shrink just to the perfect size because I'm somewhere between a medium and a large in most places.
And when you hear athletic fit and large, that ain't me.
Yeah, well, you kind of taper out more than in at the midsection.
Yeah, I do.
But I thought it would be a perfect size until I opened it up, and then I'm like, it's like down to my knees. I don't know what
This
large
isn't
this
a
is.
schmedium. I can't wear this.
It was pretty awful. So, like, even right away, Steve, I texted you because I was like, okay, it's still a large. Let's be within the realm of possibility here. John, you're not really a large usually. You're more of an XL kind of guy.
Extra large.
And even Steve took a look at it. He's like, nope, ain't going to fit me. So
Fit me just fine.
right. So apparently, if you're gonna invest in a Pop Vinyl T-shirt collection, go for the large, John. It'll fit you just fine. Minus the bacon neck, of course.
Yeah, right.
So we've got the T-shirt, we've got the poster. We go heading towards the back. Now here's the one problem I had with the whole spread. I think there was a good selection of stuff out there. Unlike last year when there was an entire section dedicated to all the new merchandise, this time it was just mixed in with what was already in the Star Wars section.
Scavenger hunt.
Right. So you're like rummaging through. You're like, okay, it was a packaging check, really. You're like, okay, that's got Kylo at the top. That's last year. Kylo. Oh, Death Trooper. Okay, got it. So you had to like filter through the pegs to find the new stuff. And thanks to Tyler, I had found out that the 6-inch Black Series Shore Trooper figure, or I'm sorry, not Shore Trooper, Tank, the Tank Trooper, Hover Tank Trooper, I think is the title of it. Is a Toys R Us exclusive, limited to 6 per store for that night. Fortunately, as I said, we doubled the crowd from 3 to 6 when we got there. So, guess who is holding?
You get a trooper, and you get a trooper.
That's
and
right.
You get a trooper.
We all walked out with troopers, and I know the collectors
6
are going to
per store, and you open the box.
That's right. I was going to say collectors are going to hate this, but the reason I tweeted a picture of him tonight is because he's out of the box. I don't care. He's a toy. Damn it.
The action figure.
He's a collectible.
Looks like I'm gonna have to get that guy at Celebration next year.
Yeah, he's gonna have a different gun or something like.
Yeah, right.
That's
This
gonna
is
be
not
the only
exclusive.
difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure the way it's a Toys R Us exclusive is that it's only going to be sold there, but it's not going to be sold in limited quantities. I'm sure the availability will open up.
Yeah.
But, it was cool to get that. I actually snagged a K2 SO 6-inch Black Series, which actually, because he's taller, he's more like a 6.5-inch. So it's cool to keep it in scale.
Yeah.
Because the one stipulation that my girlfriend gave me when leaving the house was that I was not allowed to go toy shopping at midnight if I didn't bring her back a toy.
Okay.
So after she saw the
So a pack
crew,
of Shopkins later, you were headed back home.
Yeah.
But yeah, she decided that the character she was most interested in the new movie was K2SO after seeing the trailer.
I have to
So,
admit, I'm really pumped up to see that character as well.
yeah, I think the droids are kind of like an easy sell because it's always fun to have a robot with a personality. I mean, R2 was cool. C-3PO has its own following. BB-8 was the breakout star of Force Awakens. So I can see why K2SO is already getting early traction with this one.
Yep. Now, did you get everything that you went for?
Yeah, actually, the selection was decent because there wasn't that much merchandise. They've got 2 waves planned, and they've already shown pictures of what's coming next. But the initial stuff, there was I think there was 5 of the 3 3/4-inch figures and 4 or 5 of the 6-inch Black Series, and then Lego put out 5 regular building sets and 3 of their buildable action figures. So there wasn't as much stuff this year as there was last year for the Force Friday thing.
So you didn't really have anything that like drew your interest. Like there was so much merch that came out last year that we didn't get to see until Force Friday. Like some of the characters, some of the Lego sets where we got to see, Poe's X-Wing, more than for like that split second. You actually got to see and get excited about things from the movie early. You didn't really get much of that.
No, they're not really revealing too much right now. I think the Go Rogue series on YouTube that Star Wars put out, there's like all like Robot Chicken stop motion using the toys from Rogue Friday. That was a serial series in advance of Rogue Friday, so you got to see all that stuff in advance. And the cool thing was they're very coordinated in what they're releasing. Like the Lego sets were the same vehicles as Hasbro had available in the regular action figure line. So it wasn't like you got a sneak preview of something in one toy line that the other one didn't have or that hasn't been seen in the trailer already. Well, kind of. The Lego sets do have an AT-ST, which is a straight-up original trilogy design. So even though it hasn't been shown, I don't think, in the trailer yet, it's not exactly a big reveal because we've seen that thing before.
True.
So even though it could be in Rogue One, we've already seen it, and we haven't had a Lego set of it in at least 5 years. So
there was a AT-ST on at least one of the Star Wars trading card app cards that was released on Force Friday too. So
what really?
Yeah, there was like a
I think it's in
the
the trailer. I'm for some reason I remember seeing both of them.
Yeah, there was a line of like
and the AT-ST.
18 cards or something they dropped on the app or something that were all like premiere movie card things that kind of had a little bit here and there of the movie. Probably like you said, it's probably mostly trailer stuff. But
see, we're gonna have to get you to do a segment on the show about the Star Wars Card Trader app because you're like the broker for your entire family. Like, you don't even run your own account anymore. You're busy managing other people's.
Not really. I usually just hoard credits on the other ones, and then I trade them all to one account so it boosts the score.
Yeah, like every
You're
time
cheating.
Every time we talk about it. Every time we talk about it, I'm like, man, I can't get that insert. It costs too damn much to get the packs and everything. You're like, oh, dude, I traded for that like 4 times over. I got like the entire wave.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know you hate Finn as a character and stuff, but like last week I got one of those stupid cards that has the relic of the worn stormtrooper undershirt with the autograph on the card and stuff. One of those like 1 in like 500 pulls that I yanked in like one pack, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, trade it to Gwen's account. Like, all right, let's move along.
So basically, to summarize, it was raining.
Yes.
The audio was crap.
Yes.
You got to hook up with the Mando Mercs and 501st.
Yes.
You got one of the, what is it, shore troopers, you said? Or no, it's the tank troopers. You got one of the 6.
Yep.
You got the Lego stuff you wanted.
Yep. I walked out with the ATST,
And
which
it-
was exactly what I intended to get. I'm purposely rationing myself because there are only 5 sets to buy between now and, when the movie comes out.
So basically, it seems like it was a little bit of a letdown.
It was in the sense that it was a smaller event than last year, but because it was a smaller event, it wasn't, and it was the second time that they've done it now, it was much more organized, and it wasn't such a mad scramble to get stuff. The real chaos...
It's not that tough to wrangle 6 guys at the door.
Right?
The real chaos was over at Walmart, actually.
Really?
Well, Walmarts weren't officially doing any sort of like a midnight event, but because a lot of the Walmarts around us are 24 hours, they still had the gear out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did have it at midnight, but they weren't really on the ball like Toys R Us was. Like, it wasn't on the pegs. It was a bunch of boxes sitting on the floor.
Oh my! I can't even
They
imagine.
just cut them open and let them sit there in the aisleway. So we all go over there after Toys R Us just to see if there's anything there that Toys R Us didn't have, or vice versa. Because I think Walmart's getting an exclusive of some kind too. And we're just sitting there, a bunch of guys just huddled around boxes in the middle of the toy section, which is currently under renovation. They're redoing that Walmart, so they've actually pushed like the bedding section into the toy section. So you get like, instead of like 5 aisles of toys, you get like 2 aisles of toys and then 3 of like comforters and sheets and pillows and crap.
Oh my God!
So like their entire Star Wars section that we found was like the crappy Millennium Falcon Air Hog thing from last year that was like $30, discounted down to like 12. They had like a Kylo Ren voice changer, and I think they had some of the Lego sets out, but we didn't find any of the action figures, and that's because they were sitting in a pile in the hallway. Like, they hadn't bothered to take them out of the cases yet.
Oh,
So
Well,
we're rifling through all that stuff.
speaking of pay what you get, or get what you paid for, those Walmart employees were doing a bang up job.
Dude,
Yeah.
they do it all the time. They just wheel those pallets out into the middle of the floor, and they just let them sit until they get to them. And if you start going through, Gwen does it all the time with her Monster High dolls. Like, she'll just look at the sides of the boxes, and she'll just be like, nope. I know they only get 2 of these per store. She'll start ripping those boxes open to get what the hell she wants.
Hey, minty fresh from the case.
Yeah, I
Yep.
guess so.
So yeah, after all that, then we decided, okay, well, that's enough of this stupidity. It's already 12:45 at night, and anybody who was going to watch has since tuned out. So we go home. We actually, because we didn't actually get any conversation going on, I was trying to film this whole time. I actually decided to kill some time talking to Jeff and John a little bit, try to get something salvageable out of the night. Because by that time, we had already noticed that the Facebook feed was not working. So we killed that and went back, and that's when we experimented with Spreaker Live. So, John, you want to chime in here because you have some experience with this now?
I was quite tired, so yeah, I finally got it pulled up on my phone. I could actually listen to the thing.
From
Took a
Spreaker
while.
or Facebook?
It was actually from Spreaker.
Okay, yeah, because I still don't even have that installed on my phone, so that explains why I didn't get anything.
Our main platform, you don't even have it installed.
I get mine from iTunes.
I didn't get any Spreaker notifications. Do you have the app? No.
No. But yeah, it finally worked for me. It took forever. And then so I was listening, and because I couldn't find the chat or anything, it basically became me reacting to their conversation by just texting AJ. And then Jeff was reading my texts. And then it got into a Van Halen discussion and an AC/DC discussion. And I'm sitting there in my kitchen and I'm going, there's no way we're going to be able to use this. There's like nothing Star Wars related for like 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, it was completely useless. But the good thing that we found out, and this will come into play in the future because, damn it, we pay for live streaming on Spreaker and we're going to use it. We found the chat room for Spreaker. It's the comments section on the episode itself.
That's so weird to me.
It is. I don't know how comments equals chat, but
you know what sucked to me. And I was trying to get you guys on topic, but when you guys would say something Star Wars related, I would text you because there was some guy listening to the live feed. Just some random guy who happened to be on Spreaker looking for something live to listen to. And the guy actually commented a few times like he knew about Star Wars. And I'm going, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to gain a new listener. And we just kept talking about dumb stuff. I'm like, doggone it.
Well, we showed him, didn't we?
Yeah, right.
Trying to get on topic and all you talk about is Roth versus Hagar.
Dude, seriously. It was bad. I was like, doggone it. This is like a perfect chance. But
I think we're totally going to do that in the future. Now that we have our platform for live after hours kind of shows.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to do that. The one problem I was thinking about this today is that, sorry guys, we're going to get into a live planning session here for a second. I'm assuming the address to go to for a live show changes every time because each episode gets its own URL. So anytime we're going to use this live platform, we're going to have to make sure that everybody knows where to go in advance, or at least where to check. Like, check our Twitter at this time, and we'll send out the URL to get in and listen and comment.
No, there's a way. The Classic Metal Show, my buddy Aiken's show, as you know, they have Spreaker's their main platform, and they have two different links when you look up their show on Spreaker. One is for the CMS Live, and the other one is for the recorded bits. So they'll record the whole thing, and then they'll chop it into segments based on what they talked about. But the one is the whole show live. So we would have two Nerf Herder councils. One would just be when we go live. You click on that one, it's the live one, and then the other one's the recorded stuff. Okay,
well, we'll work with that. We'll screw it up, of course, because that's what we do with the first attempts at most things. So, yeah, getting back to the whole reason we're recapping this all right now, turns out that while I can record audio on Spreaker and go live on Facebook at the same time, apparently the Spreaker app hijacks the audio feed. So little did I know that for 45 minutes, I was live on our Facebook page with no audio whatsoever.
That was my thing. That's why you got a very expletive-filled, all capital letters text message from me. Why can't I hear any sound on this damn thing? And if we had, half a brain between the three of us, we would have realized that if you're running two apps at once, one of them is going to pull audio. It's not going to pull audio for both at the same time, I don't think so. But
I wish we could have just kept the Facebook Live video and we could have just tried to spew over it later.
Sync them up or something.
Add audio. Not even that. Just add audio later. We could do the bad lip reading YouTube video.
Right.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is all of this podcasting stuff, especially when you're going on multiple platforms, is a giant pain in the ass. It requires a lot of gear and expertise, neither of which we have.
Very true.
Well, it's got to be simpler because when I went out of town in 2013 to go to the Van Halen show in Wisconsin, Aiken just had his phone and he was recording segments. He'd record it and boom, it was up on the Classic Metal Show Spreaker page immediately after.
Oh, yeah. If you're only doing one platform at a time, it's cake.
Well, yeah. Again, I really don't know what the live Facebook video would be good for us.
Also trying to...
just watching guys sit there and talk like, okay.
Okay.
Here's Walmart. Here's a dirty floor. You guys can all relate.
Yeah.
I actually
right.
I actually listened to a pro wrestling podcast that does a YouTube stream live, and it's just them standing there talking to the camera, and then they have the audio version go out over their audio platforms. It's not uncommon.
Well, all right. Well, it's my personal preference then.
JT just likes to be heard and not seen.
I think based on our appearances, I think it's our audience's preference not to see us as well.
Very true. Very true.
I may be big, but I think I'm kind of handsome.
You're cuddly.
I am. Well, let's move on to a different topic. Is actually something a little more normal.
Well, again, we can, because no one heard the first conversation, let's do the one that I asked Jeff about.
Exactly.
Which was the stuff I wanted to get out in the live feed. So this is going to be a little bit of a Rogue One centric conversation as far as like the jumping off point.
Okay.
So I don't want to get too far ahead because we don't know that much about the movie yet, but it's a good general topic.
Okay.
And this is something that I worried about ever since Disney took over and started writing their own Star Wars stories. Is they started with the sequel trilogy, which was nice. They just kind of moved their storytelling completely out of the George Lucas era and gave themselves a clean slate. Now with the Rogue One story and Rebels, they're going back and adding stories to the George Lucas era. And I just wanted to get the temperature from you guys and see what you guys think about that and how are you dealing with that? Because every time you add a new story into an existing timeline, it colors the events that you already know. So, I mean, where do you guys like that, or are you a little protective and wary of what Disney's going to do with this stuff here?
I guess I don't have a problem with it yet. I've heard basically from you guys that the new season so far of Rebels is kind of in the dumper, but
it's better than season 2 so far.
Really? Yeah, I'm really behind actually, so I haven't watched any of it yet. But
you're only 2 episodes behind so far. So
it'll be 3 next week. But
nice.
But yeah, like I guess I don't have a problem with it because I've never tried to bridge the gap myself with any of this stuff. So actually getting a canonized story to say like this is what happened between points A and B, just having something there, I guess I don't, for lack of a better word, I don't care. Like, you know, it's just like it's cool to actually, you know, put the puzzle pieces in place and say like, okay, there it is. There's the storyline. Like, yeah, like I was pissed off as a video game fan that they knocked out Star Killer and all that stuff between 3 and 4, you know, to replace it with Rebels. But other than that, it's just like, it's like it is what it is, you know, like I don't mind that they're doing it. So I'm not that worried about where they go with Rebels and Rogue One and stuff like that. Now, getting worried, you know, to jump off of our topic again, when you start talking about like the Han Solo story and stuff, now that's something I guess I could get worried about because there's a lot we feel like we know about him and backstory and all that stuff, and if they go, no, everything you knew is kind of crap, and they change it
right.
like that could seriously piss a lot of people off, you know, if they go the wrong direction with that. But Rogue One, Rebels, not a big deal to me right now. Not having a problem with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted to go with it, because a hot topic for us on this show is always prequel hate. And we've identified one of the root causes of prequel hate is people having expectations about those backstories that did not pan out when the stories were actually told. So it's kind of the same thing now with Disney going back and making a movie all about how the Death Star plans were stolen. And I'm sure a lot of us growing up already had those stories and played them out with our action figures and everything and have our own version of what went down. So now that we're going to find out what officially happened, people might just not accept it because it's not their version.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of that. We were talking off air, and my point was that when you add these new stories into the canon and you kind of expand what you're doing, it's almost like when you're telling a lie to somebody and it gets more and more involved, you've got more and more stuff to trip up on. So for me, where Star Wars is concerned, I come into these new stories accepting that it may cause me to question things that are already there, but there's really no way around it. So,
and yeah, it's like you were saying earlier that like it could be one line that you're like, oh well, that doesn't match up with what, you know, Obi-Wan said in you know, episode 3 and blah.
Yeah.
Blah. If you're really getting that in depth, like, yeah, I could see where new stories will really get under your skin. But
Yeah.
for most of us, it honestly, like, we are big Star Wars nerds here, but I understand that we're not that deep into it that it's like we start meshing up, what was said by who and what movie and making sure all the lines are perfect and the stories are perfectly in tune. Yeah, so we're not that bad, even though there's people like that out there. We know that.
See, and I don't have a problem with that because I know that with how detail oriented Lucasfilm is in terms of the stories that they tell and whatnot, that if there's something that's unexplained, that it's just an accidental oversight on their part, because they really try and keep everything as cohesive as they possibly can. So it's not like they just went, yeah, we're just going to gloss over that's part of it. Like they may have just missed it, because the more you tell, the more questions it's going to raise.
It's the episode 7 Chewbacca thing, walking past Leia at the end of
exactly. Yes, that's exactly it.
Where so many people were like, "What? I didn't even notice that." And then you got these other people that got sticks up their asses, like, Chewie hates Leia.
Yep. Yeah, I mean it's like I've always said about in Return of the Jedi, the only lines that aren't really explained very well in the other movies are when Leia and Luke are talking about their mother. Well, I don't have memories of my mother. Well, I kind of do. They don't really explain that, but everything else is really explained. And at some point, you just have to accept they're not going to be able to explain everything. So, I mean, you have to walk this line of, well, do you want more Star Wars stories? Because if you do, you have to give up on getting every last detail exactly perfectly explained by everything else. It's either
like
you want new stories and take that as a grain of salt with it, or you don't get new stories. So what do you want?
It's like the presidential elections. Like you want in your mind exactly what you picture, and if it deviates off of that, you're going to become a keyboard warrior, and Lucas is crap and Star Wars is crap and Disney's crap because you didn't write what I pictured in my mind. So F you.
Yep. I mean, my only problem will come if they really do something really egregious with previous storylines. Like the whole thing about where, let's say they have Boba Fett going forward, and he did escape the Sarlacc. Like, okay, come on, he's in the Sarlacc. Like he's stuck in the Sarlacc. Just don't be. He all of a sudden got jetpacked out and this, that, and the other, and whatever. That something that huge would annoy me, but otherwise. No, I don't have a problem with it.
Well,
you mean like Han living?
We're not going there.
Yeah. Han can escape the bottomless pit on the planet that blows up, but Boba Fett can't get out of the stomach of a creature that takes 1,000 years to eat.
You didn't see Han Solo die. His eyes were open when he fell, and all you saw was him disappear into the fog. You don't know what happened. It could have been a pillow factory, and he fell onto like 1,000 feet worth of pillows and just bounced and went, "Ooh, that actually wasn't that bad."
Just 30 years worth of skinned Ewok carcasses down there that he just landed. Just poof.
Like the lightsaber wound, because it's between my arm and my torso, that one kind of burns a little bit. I'll need a little bit of medical attention, but this actually is quite comfortable.
All right, yeah, we're not even going to go there again. All right,
we're not. Hey, he's the one that brought it up. Yeah, moving on.
No, recommended viewing for you guys is the extended Pablo Hidalgo interview that Star Wars put out on their YouTube channel. He goes into great detail about his role because he's part of the story group, and he explains what the story group does and what they don't do. Because everyone thinks that he's just like a we're not official Lucasfilm, so I can use the term and not worry about bleeping it. But he's not just a fact Nazi. He checks for continuity, but it's not his job to sit there and just be a whistleblower. It's his job to add information where necessary. Like maybe someone's telling a story and they're like, "Hey, we want to bring in a ship here. Is there a ship in a story already that kind of fits this description that we can pull in?" Or we have this story idea where this character is going to do this thing. Is that in character or out of character? Or was this character elsewhere at the time this story takes place, so we can't put him there? Or are we telling a story that some other channel within the company is telling right now also, so we're not overlapping each other? So it's really cool because where I was going with my original question was not so much about them telling stories to the point where they start contradicting each other. It was more a point of, like with the prequels, where we thought we knew exactly how the events of the would-be episodes 1, 2, and 3 played out, to where seeing them play out differently was something we didn't want to accept. Same with Rogue One. Like, Rogue One, I don't think is going to contradict what happened in episode 4, but they may arrive at it in such a way that is unsatisfying to the audience. And are you afraid of something like that coming up, where they put in like a plot twist in the story that you don't think really jives with what episode 4 explained those events to be?
I personally won't have a problem with that, but I think it's a good point to mention, because I think a lot of people might, and it's the whole reason why people don't like the prequels. One of the big reasons, because they don't want to see Darth Vader as a whiny little kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to them, he's just this ultra badass all the time. And for me, as I've said so many times, I want to go in and see something new. And that was my main complaint with episode 7, was like, after the first 45 minutes, it really just parrots episode 4, which to me, I was like, okay, I've already seen this. That's not cool. And Rogue One to me is going to be awesome because there's nothing to parrot. It's just the only thing that we know is that the rebels stole the Death Star plans. There's like a couple sentences in canon right now that explain what happened. They stole the plans. Okay, that's all we know. So the whole thing of how they did it is completely a blank canvas, which is really cool. It's going to be a new story. I'm excited for it. I've been on record as saying the only thing I don't like is that ninja guy, the blind ninja guy with a bow staff. I'm like, come on, dude. It's a bow staff, and they have blasters. You know, it's like the scene that one. That's still, every time I see that scene of him whooping the stormtroopers with the bow staff, I always picture Raiders of the Lost Ark when the Arab dude in the red is like doing the sword flipping, and Indiana Jones just looks at him, pulls out his gun, and blows him away. Like, I'm like, why wouldn't the stormtroopers do that? But other than
you got
that,
Chirrut in the middle of the circle of stormtroopers, like flipping his bow staff around, and then someone just pot shots him in the head.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm like, put that thing away. It's a stick. But no, I mean,
there was one bit from the Pablo Hidalgo interview that I think is perfect, though, because this is, again, one of the big fears is like, okay, we've got this entire cast of characters, this entire series of events, and there's like no mention of it in episode 4 other than they did this thing. So the natural question is like, well, why the hell haven't we heard about these people before? If they did this great thing, they should be mentioned by name, and they should be around for the Death Star assault and all this other stuff. And Pablo actually specifically says all those kinds of questions, we've thought of those 3 years ago when we started on this project. So even though we may think that we're going to like be looking for plot holes and there's going to be something that we can find that they screwed up continuity-wise, they may actually make a mistake, but it's an actual mistake. They've considered and measured everything in this movie. So all the stuff that you see, like the fact that there's Death Troopers and there's Director Krennic and there's TIE Strikers and all these vehicles and trooper detachments that we've never seen before, they considered that. They're like, okay, well, we've got stuff in this movie that we haven't seen before because, you know, from a marketing perspective, you want to show people something new. But also, and this is, again, something I've been turning over in my brain, so I want to turn it over to you guys too, is just because we don't see these things in 4, 5, or 6 doesn't mean they didn't exist. It just means that they weren't part of what we saw in 4, 5, and 6.
All right.
Now, I kind of have a problem with that because, as you saw in the Clone Wars, there were tons of different types of clone detachments. They all had, like, colored armor and customized armor, like the Kashyyyk troopers had camouflage and Galactic Marines had extra covering, and they were all very specialized that way. And the fact that none of that exists in the original trilogy, I always kind of thought it was a sign of the Empire's grip over the galaxy and the Emperor's hubris of trying to homogenize the entire galaxy, like a one-size-fits-all solution. That's why when you're on Endor and you've got stormtroopers in bright white armor fighting in the forest, when back in episode 3, you see on Kashyyyk, they wear camouflage like soldiers do. So having the shore troopers, for example, be wearing beach-colored camo in Rogue One, it makes sense. It's logical. But from the standpoint of what the Empire was doing and trying to basically say, we're going to have one type of ship and one type of soldier for the entire galaxy because, damn it, we're the Empire and everything needs to be the same. We don't want individuality. We want to erase that from the universe. I'm not really sure how I feel about having these specialized vehicles and detachments and whatnot in this movie that's right before Episode 4.
I mean, it's a little weird, yeah, but there's a lot of people that make that argument of stormtroopers and especially First Order troopers, not being clones anymore and stuff, that if these guys in Rogue One are so close to Episode 3...
Episode 4.
Or, yeah, well, between 3 and 4, depending. It should be closer to 4 than 3, yeah.
Yeah, because the Rogue One ends a few minutes before Episode 4 starts. So.
I wasn't even sure of that timeline. So, yeah, it's going to be like an instant crossover. Yeah, I was thinking maybe those guys are still so many remnants of the clone army that they're still, in that mindset of the beach-colored armor and this and that, to keep their original 501st, mentality and stuff. But yeah, I guess if it's that close to Episode 4, how did it fall off that far, from...
Well, if you think about it, I mean, in Episode 4, they're basically in space. They get stuck on Tatooine looking for the droids.
Yeah.
So, all right, but they're mostly in space. Same thing in Episode 5. They're in space and they're on Hoth, so you're not going to wear like a black suit on Hoth in the snow. So, I mean, I agree with you about having the specialized uniforms and stuff. It doesn't really jive, I suppose, going forward. But if you think about it, the only thing that really doesn't jive too well is the desert in Episode 4, and then Endor in Return of the Jedi. And again, that's one of those things where you can't cover all your bases. I mean, back then, when they made the original trilogy, they had stormtroopers, and it was, I mean, if you think about it, they were specialized because they had stormtroopers, and then they had snowtroopers, and then they had TIE pilots. Like, they did kind of specialize them, but, I mean, it's one of those things you can't think about everything right then, so they're trying to expand it now. And it's one of those details for me that I personally overlook because I'm like, okay, it's like, how much are you going to nitpick the damn thing?
Maybe Endor, they just didn't care. It was the rebels.
That's a good point.
It was the rebels and a couple of Ewoks, and it was like, why send all the specialized people in? We could just oversaturate the planet with the bottom of the line stormtroopers here and and probably wipe these guys out.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't even the rebels either. I mean, it was really, they were stationed there just to protect against the Ewoks. So, I mean, there's really nothing there for them to worry about. So it's like, oh, the Ewok can see us our glaring white uniforms amidst the trees and the bushes and stuff.
What are you gonna do, teddy bear?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Throw a rock at me?
That's what I'm thinking. Is that was kind of the attitude of the Empire at the time was, we don't need to hide from you. We're the friggin' Empire.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I agree with your point that maybe it's kind of strange having Rogue One with all these cool special troopers, but right into Episode 4 where there isn't. But to me, it's just one of those things where. You can't possibly cover every base.
Yeah, like you said, being in space and stuff, maybe it's just because we didn't see them on a beach and stuff like that, so we didn't really know that stuff existed. But there's the plot hole, though, like you said, of Endor and Tatooine and stuff, though, so it's like, 6 one way, half a dozen another, I guess.
And Tatooine was like a junk planet, really.
Tatooine I'll go with because they sent the troopers down from space.
Yeah, and why would the Empire have to have troops and stuff stationed on Tatooine when it's nothing but crap down there?
Right.
It's just
like
one giant
AJ
desert.
said,
Who gives a damn?
It's the Empire. It's overpowering. Maybe they just wanted the guys there in the bright white suits just so everybody could see the people and be like, hey, you straighten the F up when you see the bright white suits coming around.
Yeah. And also, it's a question that might be answered in Rogue One. We don't know. I mean, maybe they'll explain it.
Well, they
there
better
are-
answer it the right way, or I'm going to be pissed.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah.
going to tell them so on a Facebook comment.
Well, there are regular stormtroopers in Rogue One also.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I've already read articles identifying the differences in costume between Rogue One and Episode 4, which they're not like, this is not a snarky article where they're like, well, there could be 4 buttons on that and there's only 3 instead.
Right.
It's more just like, oh, hey, look what they changed so the troopers could move and do more stuff in this movie. The actual look and the details haven't really been changed. They've just been modified enough so they can do more movie things.
Yeah. Well, which is smart.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fun to speculate on this stuff because have you guys seen the designs for the new ships, for example?
Not a lot.
No, honestly, the only thing I really overlooked at was probably the fact that I think the Death Trooper looks really cool. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I kind of studied that outfit a little bit, but vehicles and everything else, I haven't really
Well, have you
given
seen
much in depth into it yet.
Have you seen the TIE Striker?
No. I'm actually doing what I did with Episode 7, which is once the last main trailer came out, I kind of tried to stay as much in the dark as I could so that it was a lot of fresh stuff on the screen, because the way the internet is anymore, and especially doing the show, I go on a bunch of different Star Wars websites, so it'd be so easy for me to see all this different stuff.
Or go to Toys R Us.
Yeah, exactly.
Did they,
So
did they make a Lego kit of that one?
Yeah, it
Like
looks
I
sweet.
thought I saw some weird tie something or other. I didn't know if that was it or not.
I think
though.
I've seen it. There was some goofy tie looking thing I've seen, but I can't say for sure.
The general shape of it, to me, it looks like you took the wings of a TIE Interceptor and just put one of them on top of the pod. So you've got one pointed wing coming out front from each side instead. And you know what that reminds me of? And if this was the actual design inspiration, I'd love it if this was true. It reminds me a lot of the Jedi Interceptors as we saw them in Episode 3. The general shape. You know, we had the Imperial octagonal cockpit, and then we had those 2 protrusions coming out towards the front. I would love it if their explanation of this ship ended up being that this was the intermediate step between the Jedi Interceptor and then the modern TIE Fighter. Like maybe they went to the TIE, the twin ion engine design in the same general shape, and then changed the wing shape later on.
That would seem to make sense, because that's what they did throughout the prequels and the Clone Wars, is they did the build up to what we know from the original trilogy. So that would seem to make sense.
Yeah, like instead of being a different variation in the same timeline as the other TIE fighters, if instead it was like an older model of TIE fighter that then evolved into what we saw in Episode 4, I think that'd be like super cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like I say, I haven't really seen a lot. I've seen all that I want to see, and I'm just excited by the fact that the first trailer, I was kind of like, I was one of the few people that wasn't totally blown away by the first trailer. Mm-hmm. But then that second one came out, and I was like, okay, I'm on board. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm worried about my reaction to it, only because like we've talked about people having expectations, and I have to admit that I have an expectation that I'm going to enjoy it more than Episode 7 because it's something fresh. And
Interesting.
I know, I feel like I'm already building it up in my mind, and I'm trying not to. But the whole thing about Episode 7 ripping off Episode 4 just still eats at me.
So even though in the grand scheme of things, Rogue One doesn't quote unquote matter as much as Episode 7 because we know where Rogue One ends and Episode 7 is the first step in a new storyline, you're more excited for Rogue One than 7.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And I think another reason is I like how it's going to make the rebels look like they're more heroic than we think. Because in Episode 4 and 5 and 6, it's like, okay, well, they're this little band and they're getting victories here and there against the Empire and whatever. But this is going to give us some more detail about how dangerous what the rebels were trying to pull off really is. And I kind of like that. Because we're going to see this Rogue One, then you're going to go into Episode 4, and when Princess Leia says, "Oh, we stole the Death Star plans," you're going to know just how evil the Empire is and how much of a pain in the ass that really was to get the Death Star plans. I really, really like that. It's so cool.
That really is going to change your outlook after December of this year, going back and watching episode 4, now that you have that fill-in in your mind, now it's not what you imagine. Now you got this thing that you just saw, an hour and a half of, okay, this is canon, that's what it is. So that's going to change so much of an outlook of the beginning of episode 4 now when you see Leia, popping the Death Star plans into R2 and all that, and you're like, oh, this is how they got there.
Yep. and to me, the other thing that I like is the same reason that I like the prequels. Is I've said that I like the way they handled the story of Darth Vader. It wasn't just, oh, he's bad, now he's really bad. Instead of it, in Rogue One, them just being the rebels. Oh, it's a bunch of these guys that don't like the Empire, and they just went and ripped off the plans. No, they have like Jyn Erso, who is some kind of fugitive or criminal or something, and they basically say, you're going to work for us or F you. And that's a different twist on how the story could have been. I like that. It was a cool way to present something that could have been so black and white.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like something the Empire would have done.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, there's so many unique elements just based around this story and how they're telling it that I'm really excited. And so my expectation is, because it's something new, which is what I really hoped for from episode 7, I'm expecting to enjoy it more than episode 7, which worries me because if I don't, it'll be the first time I walk out of a Star Wars movie actually bummed.
and then there's the underlying fact of getting to see known characters, like getting to see Vader again and our typical stormtroopers. You kind of, it's nice to be able to see the original characters again, instead of, not that we got Luke and Han and Leia and blah 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 in episode 7, but you get to see what we knew from 4, 5, 6. Instead, like, a new story was great and everything, but it's something about being able to go back to the well sometimes makes you feel nice and comfy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it roots it in the familiar, which it's and I think that's why a lot of people with like Rebels and Clone Wars, when Clone Wars started, some people had a hard time latching onto them. I know I was one of them, because there was so many new characters. You're like, well, how does this attach to what I know? And I mean, all you have to do is look at episode 7 for Disney's outlook on that, which is, well, we can't just have all these new characters because people aren't going to get into it as much. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you all the old characters so that at least there's that, and then you'll pay attention to the new characters around them.
Right. It's a loose example, but the very first episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, they got DeForest Kelley to be an 149-year-old version of Dr. McCoy walking through the hallway with Commander Data. Just so you saw one original Star Trek guy in the first episode of the new Star Trek.
He's like handing it off to him. Yep.
Right. Exactly. Which I thought was super cool. And it was good to see that in episode 7. But I'm with you, Steve. It's going to be cool to see what a Disney-led Star Wars story is set in the original trilogy time period. To see what they characterize stormtroopers as and what they think the Empire was like then.
Like, and bringing up the card trader app thing again, like, just seeing the one card with Vader on it was like really exciting to me. And like 18 cards that was in that set, I was trying to trade with people like crazy. Like, I was dumping 4 or 5 cards at a time just to get Vader. And I'm like, dude, it's something about the character that I'm just like, dude, I'm really, really excited. I hope they don't episode 7 Luke his ass into this movie like that.
They already said they are. He's only in it for like 2 minutes, everyone says.
See, you're not as in the dark as I am then, because I didn't know that. So
yeah, that was a couple months ago.
Thanks, ass.
Well, at least now you're not going to go in there and get Luked.
Well, now I don't need to go see it.
Now I'm not going to see it. Screw you, Lucasfilm.
Well, they're 2 for 2 now. If the character doesn't appear on the poster, don't count on seeing him in the movie.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys something about Vader? Well, it's as a sidebar, but am I the only one that, I don't know, maybe if it was because of David Prowse's stature in the outfit in the original trilogy, or I don't know if it's something aesthetically with the actual making of the helmet itself, but am I the only one that thinks that Darth Vader outside of the original trilogy movies never quite looks right no matter what they do? I don't know why. It's like I mean, they did the perfectly symmetrical one in episode 3, and I was like, okay. And again, maybe it's because they had Hayden Christensen in the outfit instead of David Prowse, so it was like a
and
skinny
it wasn't
dude
the
instead of a
70s
weightlifter
anymore. So like,
Yeah, I don't know what it is. And I saw, I've seen like a promotional picture, I think it was actually from the Card Trader app, of the Vader from Rogue One. I'm like, that still doesn't, I don't know why.
there's
I wish I could put my
always-
finger on it because it's got to be something so minuscule.
Yeah, there's always these little mini things that look different, but honestly, after a couple of minutes, it's just like it fuses in and it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't bother me. It's just weird. I just wondered if I was the only one that was. My very first reaction is that doesn't look right.
Yeah,
and I don't know why.
Because I got that with the Card Trader card too, and I'm just looking at because it's really close on the face, and I'm just like, something is not right on it, and I couldn't figure it out, and I'm just like, but after a while, I'm just looking at it, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's cool, like it's good, whatever.
And I wanted to ask you, well, both you guys, something. You make a good point saying it'll be interesting to see what Disney does writing their own Star Wars story within the context of the original trilogy universe. I don't think, in my opinion, they could have picked a cooler story to tell, or really a more important one than what they did with the rebels stealing the Death Star plans. I mean, there's really not much that I've tried to think about it, and there's really not much else that you can really come up with that would be as influential or important to the Star Wars canon than how the rebels actually stole the plans, because that's really where their victory, it's like the genesis of the victory of the rebels.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. One, you're right. There's not many other stories that they could go for, so the selection is very thin. And second, you got to make sure it's a story that lends itself to a movie, because one of the things that I think, as you've gone through and finally watched the Clone Wars, JT, one thing that is hard to get used to, and Rebels is even harder to get used to, is we're used to Star Wars stories being a certain format, which is it's a good 2-hour story and then it's done. And television format lends itself to more long-form storytelling. So there might be other stories they could explore within the time span of episode 4, 5, 6, or just after or just before, but not ones that lend themselves to a 2-hour in and out, wrap it up nicely kind of format like stealing the Death Star plans. That's a story in itself. They can bolt right on to the front of the trilogy, no problem, and it wouldn't really play out as well in long form. Like, that's what Rebels is for. Rebels is for telling all the other stories about the formation of the Rebel Alliance and what all the other people that were involved in that whole gathering,
I will give you the beginning of your comment too, because I can't watch an episode of Rebels. Like, only time I watch it is when I got like 4 or 5 episodes on my DVR, and then I can string together like an hour and a half of it, because it's not right to watch it for 22 minutes plus commercials and then go on with my life again. Like, I can't have these little bits and pieces of Star Wars in my life for some reason.
Well, like our favorite episodes were like the 2-parter at the beginning of season 2, where they reintroduced the old clones, because it was a 2-parter, so it was a little bit longer. And Clone Wars episodes were usually 4-episode arcs, so it added up to 88 minutes of story. It felt much more, especially with Netflix being able to binge watch commercial free.
Right.
It feels much more cinematic, is the word I used to JT over text.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier to get into that because it felt more like the story format we were used to from the movies.
Well, it was
Rebels
fleshed
doesn't
out.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fleshed out. They didn't have to cram it into 22 minutes.
So yeah, what else are you going to do if you're going to tell a movie in the original trilogy time period that hasn't already been told? What other story could you really tell besides how the Death Star plans were stolen? Like, that's the big one right there.
Yeah.
Credit to them for tackling that, by the way, because they could have left that one alone and tried to write their own to just play it safe, so to speak. And instead, they're going to challenge everyone's notion of what they thought happened in these events.
Yeah, they're throwing a Hail Mary on 1st and 10 there, ain't they?
Right? What's funny to me is I've seen a lot of online comments with people saying, well, I wonder if they're going to show the Bothans. And a lot of people aren't realizing that's the second Death Star. That's the line from Return of the Jedi. Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Right? People just know the line, and they're like, "Oh, then we're gonna see all the Bothans die."
they totally forget that the Bothans is not the first Death Star plans.
All right, remember that exact comment in December when the weekend of the movie, when we start reading all these people talking crap, they didn't even show any Bothans die getting the plans for the.
You know, it'd be awesome.
Like, how many idiots are going to jump on that train?
They just what if they have Bothans in this, and basically the rebels just use them as human shields. That's all they're there for. They're on Scarif and they're trying to get these plans, and they just send out there's 40 rebels and they send out 200 Bothans. Run that way.
It's like the South Park movie.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just taped to the tanks and stuff.
Operation Hide Behind the Bothans. And for God's sakes, try not to get yourselves killed.
Wouldn't that be
They're
great?
like, wave one, raise your hands. It's just that little group of guys. It's just the Bothans in the front.
So they'll show how they use Bothans in Rogue One, and then when you get to Episode 6, and she says many Bothans died, it'll just be you'll have in your head just these poor things just getting mowed down.
Right,
they're like the vermin of the galaxy. Like, here you go, just eradicate these guys so that we can get in there unharmed.
Maybe Bothans are kind of like deer, where you do need to call the herd. They're just running rampant.
Bothans are space deer. That would be amazing.
It's just a 10 Commandments parting of the Red Sea thing. It's just Bothans and Leia walking in a perfectly clear path with all these Bothans just flying around, just dead bodies.
Looks like
flying
Moses
around
parted
her.
the Red Sea. They're just flying in a pattern all the way around Leia and everybody.
She's just walking along.
Like, boy, I'm glad we brought these guys along. This is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Death Star plans. This is simple.
That's the true story of Rogue One. They have this really complicated storyline. And all these cool rebels like Cassian and Jyn Erso, and they're fighting all this conflict and getting it done. And all of a sudden, Leia comes on screen like, "Hey, I got this idea about Bothans." And then they look, "Oh yeah!" And the last 5 minutes is just that, just Bothans getting mowed down. They run into the building, run out. We got the plans, and then jump on the Tantive 4, and the movie ends.
Leia gets the Death Star plans in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and the rest is just crap filler.
Right. They're back at Yavin Base, and they're like, "Leia, where did you come up with that strategy?" She's like, "Well, I heard from my mom about this battle on Naboo and this thing that they did with the Gungans."
Yeah.
Because let's face it, that's basically what the Gungans were. The Gungans were just cannon fodder. We prepare to do Usan part. Usan part is to get shot at while other people do the important job.
Exactly. You know. See,
Like you said,
I
there's
just,
this big, long, drawn out thing, and in the end of the movies, there Leia's just sitting on the 4 with a flash drive in her hand, flipping it in the air. She's like, "I've had this thing for an hour and a half.
That's what it is.
Where have you guys been?"
The first 15 minutes, Leia's got it. Then all of a sudden, it jumps over to the Jyn Erso storyline, and all this stuff happens, and they go through all this hell to get the plans, and they go in there to get them, and she's like, "Nothing's here," and then they
there's just a
hit up the communicator.
Leia.
Yeah, hit a post-it note. Yeah, you guys are too late. Jyn Erso hits up the communicator and is like, "There's nothing here." Leia's voice comes over. "What do you mean there's nothing here?" "Well, the plans." You didn't get my text message? I had that a couple days ago. You did what?
The post-it note must have fell off the wall. Did you look under the table?
Most of the movie's completely and utterly pointless. And actually stealing the Death Star plans was really easy. They were hidden somewhere just in a cupboard. Leia just walks in and open. "Oh, well, look at that Death Star plans." Walks out.
It was just hidden in the secret Bender compartment in dude's chest. What's his name? What the hell's the name?
K2SO.
Oh, a proxy from the
Yeah.
TFA game. Yeah, it's just hidden in the chest compartment the whole time.
That's why they have Jyn Erso. She's such a galactic criminal that they put her through all this hell as her punishment. They don't tell her that they already have the plans. They're just trying to break her. It's kind of like Scared Straight. It's like the intergalactic version of that Scared Straight show.
What if the whole group is just like the miscreants of the entire alliance? They're like, "We got to get these people out of here. They're such a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Here, go send them there. They'll die."
They just throw him in front of Vader. That's the 2
Right.
minutes Vader's in the movie. He turns around and is like,
Right.
"Oh, you a-holes," and force chokes the hell out of everybody.
Vader's just like, just burn the bottoms of their feet like the droids.
He looks at him like, "Really? They sent you guys? Oh, boy. Oh no, I'm shaking in my boots. Uh-oh.
The one thing that I remember from going back and watching the beginning of episode 4 that could make this kind of anticlimactic at the end, you know how the Death Star plans were actually given to Leia?
No.
Several transmissions were beamed aboard.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not even going to get to see this great thing of like Jyn handing the plans over to Leia. We're just going to see them hit like an uplink somewhere and just hit send. Like they just drafted an email and just
See, I just figured out what it is.
That's their communique. Hey, it's on Dropbox now. You guys can get it anytime.
they get the plans in like the first 5 minutes of the movie, and the other 2 hours is them running around trying to get a signal because their Wi-Fi won't send the plans.
I got it. You want to piss off the community? She's going to find the plans. She's going to upload them and email them to Leia, who pulls out a Star Trek-esque communicator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people, there'd be gunshots in the theaters. Like,
or better yet, they're just trying to make a political statement, and they have one of the rebels who actually gets the Death Star plans. It comes across this server that was supposed to be secure, and the rebel has really, really bad hair. And it's a male rebel, and then they have the female Imperial person that was supposed to be in charge of this classified information on a private server, and she goes, I made a mistake. And that's how the rebels get it. It's like an anti-Hillary Clinton movie.
Setting back the women's lib movement.
Yeah. Like, man, that rebel, his hair looks strange like Donald. Wait a minute, classified it. Oh, I get it. Oh. So this
from another perspective, the rebels are basically ISIS anyway, so
yeah, right. And that's another topic for another show, which we got to get into that at some point, because we actually had that conversation over text message, and it's actually an interesting one to bring to the table. So
I'm still wondering how they're going to show Jyn Erso in shackles getting led into the rebel base. Like, dude, you guys are the criminals, so how are you arresting people? You are not a recognized government body to be detaining anyone.
Well, they can detain her. It doesn't mean that she's under arrest. They could just be keeping her.
Isn't that just straight up kidnapping then?
Well, keeping her under surveillance so that she quits messing with their stuff.
If you arrest someone and have no authority to arrest them, that's kidnapping.
Well, again.
Is that how they're recruiting?
Again, that ties into that other topic we can talk about another time. But for now, I think we should close up shop. We have had quite one hell of a show. Our first normal three-way conversation we've had between the three of us in a few shows, and it just turned into a cluster, man.
I love a good three-way.
Oh, my goodness. That was... Whew. So anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You can find us at our usual spots. Spreaker is our main one. We definitely have our voicemail, which I would like to make sure we start getting out there more often. It's 440-987-WARS. You can call and leave us a message and give us your opinion on what we've talked about. If there's something you want us to talk about or something you disagree with, just hit us up. Again, 440-987-WARS. We're at nerfherdercouncil.com, and we have our Twitter page at NHC Podcast. So, as usual, I'm your host, JT, at Dogpound Jedi. He's AJ.
At Drake Adams, 579.
He's Steve.
At JSteve1005.
We'll see you next time.
Bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my nerf herder.
You my nerf herder.